Good morning, invitation patrons. I'm so glad you're here with me, and I want to give a little special hello to my invitation patrons who have been posting their pictures on Patreon. Yay! So thank you, Leary, and also Marie and Barry, and also thank you to Linda and Amanda. I'm so grateful. So today we're going to go on and we're going to learn a little bit about an important metamorphosis of shape. So far we've been learning a lot about color, and it's been very free. And in our imagination tiers we've been going a little bit deeper into the metamorphosis of form. And so if you want to level up, you could go to the inspiration tier, and you'll see this very work that we're going to do today in watercolor. So I'm going to get started with metamorphosis. Okay, so this is a very important concept we're going to start working with today. It's metamorphosis. And in Greek, meta means change and morph means shape. So we're talking about a changing shape. And in our Patreon work so far, what we've done is we've come very much from color, as I said before, and now we're coming into form. Okay, here we go with step number 1. Take your yellow, because it's so light and forgiving, and begin to swirl around. You're trying to fill the yellow space as you swirl around, and you may need to let your arm move a bit. You'll find your own pace at this. Sometimes you might want to be fast, and sometimes you might want to go slow. And I want you to grow this shape. Grow it. It's supposed to be round, so let's make it round as we can. And that's why I like to start with yellow, because you won't really have to worry much about how it looks. Now, some of you right about now are saying, oh, can I reverse directions? Of course you can. You can go any direction you want. And if you're a teacher or you're working with children, don't worry if they go counterclockwise or if they go clockwise. Look rather for the form and really try to get a nice, round, rather large form. Just like that. Now, you can't see that very well because it's just yellow on white. So I'm going to take the red next, and I'm going to begin to push the red into the sides. I'm not using the tip, I'm kind of using the side of my pencil. And I'm going to just get that nice and orange, light orange. And you could come back with your yellow and increase that orangeness by putting yellow right on top. And keep going with your roundness. And it may take you several minutes to really get a round form. If your form is oblong or egg-shaped, don't worry about it. Resist the temptation to come in and try to draw the shape that you want. Try to use the tip of your pencil and form that shape, because we're not going to be sticking with this shape, this round shape anyway. This is just our beginning shape in our metamorphosis series. Okay, so far we've only been using these two colors, but let's go ahead and bring in our blue now and just let the blue come under the yellow. And right away we feel that this round surface that we've created has a base to support it. And as I get down here, I'm going to press it in a little bit harder. Over here, maybe I'm going to have it be light, so I won't press so hard. But you can play with your background, make it as dark or light as you want, and you may bring up this side behind there as far as you want to. I like it diagonal back there, but some people may prefer a horizontal line. And there's nothing to say that you couldn't bring in vertical lines eventually too. In fact, let's bring some vertical lines in. Let's bring them in with this red up here. And we'll bring some red right into the upper portion of this corner. I don't mind if it even comes right over the blue a bit. Okay, so now we have several of the spaces covered. We haven't done anything with this area up here, and I really am just going to leave that for a little while and find out when I get to it. But let's get back down to our space here. We talked about having it be quite round in the beginning, and I hope that you've been able to achieve that. And now I've decided that we should metamorphose this round form into something else. So I'm going to begin to let it bulge out like this. I'm going to make it into one of my favorite things to eat this time of year, which is a reindeer cherry. And up here in Washington State, we have Mount Rainier Valley, where the most delicious cherries grow. And let me tell you, once you've eaten those, red cherries are just never quite the same to you. And you can only get it this time of year. So I'm going to honor the reindeer cherry today by metamorphosing that round shape into more of a cherry shape. And as you can see, this is going to be a large cherry. The stem is going to come right out like that. It looks kind of like a pumpkin right now. And I could certainly make it into a pumpkin easily. But I'm going to stick with the reindeer cherry because they have this wonderful red. And of course, every fruit has a kind of navel area where the stem comes out. And usually that's a little bit deeper color, and the color can come right out onto the cherry. Most of us are familiar with red cherries, so it'll help us. The viewer will be helped to make this a little bit redder, kind of a glow of red about it everywhere. And let's add just a little bit right into the stem. There. Okay, so let's keep going and let's work a little bit more with the blue. You wouldn't think of putting blue probably into a cherry, but all cherries have little brown spots,
Of course, their stems aren't yellow, they're more of a brown. Let's bring blue into the stem. Also down here, but then also they have that sort of split in their flesh. We can use that to shade in. There could be even like a blemish on your cherry. I hope not. People don't like to eat the bruised ones. So we won't go too far. I do kind of appreciate that green down there that's happening. Let's get some more blue into the base. I like it to be a little bit darker now. So a little more pressure with your colored pencil. And there's nothing to say that you can't go different directions. You notice I've been doing a lot of this here, but what happens if I go this way? Something totally different. It's kind of a relief. Maybe I feel like, oh yeah, because this needs to be supported under there. I can see that now. So from here on, what you need to do is develop all the colors in all the spaces. And you know that back here we haven't done much. So how about I go ahead and bring in a light blue back there. And I think I'm going to move horizontally across the back. That's what feels balancing to me. This is what you could call a portrait of a fruit because all we're doing is one single item. But this is to teach you about this metamorphosis of form. Now look over here. It's kind of not surround here. And maybe my cherry isn't round. That's okay. But I could help out by blurring the lines a little bit here between green and orange by putting yellow over the blue, and that creates a little bit of a green down here, and it helps me to be able to really get the shape that I want by introducing this other color. Plus it's kind of nice, you know, those cherries, they do have leaves that come off. Sometimes you get them with a leaf still attached. And of course, the metamorphosis of form can come very nicely with these different colors, because we can simply create a leaf, a cherry leaf out there in the border. I don't care if it's out there in the border, do you? It's kind of nice. And then we're going to come down in here. But remember, I want this stem not to be green. I want it to be brown. I'm going to have to put red over the green to create a brown. Okay, let's work a little bit more on our cherry. I like the way that it's formed here, has a sort of 3D with that little bit of red here. And I can create more of a 3D by bringing this back line there. That's right. That back line is going to create the bottom of the cherry stem where it meets right into that darker area that I talked about before. Also, you notice I have a little bit of yellow on the outside of my red. That's going to allow me to bring a red outline, if you will, here at the end, around the outside, to really just get the form that I want. And we won't really notice it as an outline because I didn't start with it, and because it's supported by all this red orange here. And let's bring some of it forward to create the roundness, the form, the metamorphosis of shape is taking something two-dimensional, such as a circle that we started with, or a sphere. We started with a circle sphere, and we're metamorphosing it now into something three-dimensional. And how we're doing that is we are following the form as if we were a tiny little ladybug running on the outside of the cherry, and we feel where the cherry is bumping out. And we also feel where the cherry is rounding in. So sometimes it bumps out, this cherry, and sometimes in. It will scoop. Now my cherry's a little bruised at the bottom, so this is what I'm creating right now. A little bit of a yellowish bruise is going to happen right here, but it has some brown to it, so I'm going to have to put some blue on it lightly. I want to gray it, make it bruised, poor little cherry, but I'm going to still like eating you. Something happened when it was being picked or transported, or it just grew like that. Okay, so now it's just a matter of pumping up the color everywhere and making use of what you like. Now, you don't have to worry about a light source. We will talk more about light and light source in the tiers above the invitation, but for now, just find what you like in light and dark, just like we did with our abstract, and pump it up a little bit by adding more color over the top. I want this green to continue right off. So I'm going to get it all the way out to the edge by adding yellow over. I just love this rich green. And whenever I do some rich color in one part of my picture, I'm going to look at the picture itself and I'm going to ask myself, where else can I imagine a really deep, rich green being valuable? And maybe it would be obvious to be valuable up in these leaves. So let's deepen the color there by pumping up the yellow with more pressure from our hand. And then let's put some blue on there. And the shape of these leaves can metamorphose too, and it should. How does that happen? Well, you can say to yourself, this leaf is sort of hanging straight down. Do I like that? Maybe I do, but maybe I want it to incline a little bit towards my cherry. So I'm going to add a little point there. Now that would look weird if I just left it, I need to metamorphose the entire leaf form, transform it so that it fits with this new little overlapping portion that I'm creating down here. And that's going to actually be a little bit of the underside. Just a little bit showing there. Okay, that's more interesting. And I should do a little bit of attention up here to this one. Let's grow this one and have it like disappear behind the other one. Why does it have to be so small? Much more interesting to have it going behind there, or maybe on top. If we put more blue here, it'll look like it's on top. Just let what happened that you think should. And we want this stem to have a little attaching place to the top of the stem to the tree. So we're going to add a little bit of yellow up there. And we'll use the red to be the little accentuator here to differentiate this from the stem. I will outline it. Can you get real close and see that? I am creating detail right here, little lines that go across. And maybe one in there. Good. Okay, so now is a good time to review by looking at your picture from far away. And when I look at mine from a distance, I notice that this part of my cherry needs some attention so it can meet the dynamic and the depth that I've created in other places. And I can do that by creating a little bit more richness in my background. I'm also going to put something down here because that's kind of empty. So let's complete it by starting here in the background. Now, what you can do to make it easy on yourself is decide where the cherry ends and put a little bit of that color right along that edge, because it's very hard to color right up next to it without running into it. And then I can just take that color and bump it up in the background. And this creates my edge. Here it's not too visible, so I'll have less pressure, but still I'm going to show the viewer that the cherry's edge is really out there without actually coloring on the cherry herself. And let me just continue on here, creating a little bit of light and dark reds. It's okay if it comes over green, it won't show very much there. But over yellow, it's going to be quite a bit more visible. And let's just lightly color through here. I hope that you're enjoying the pleasant summer experience of working with these colors and making a cherry. Or maybe you've created a lemon, or perhaps a peach. Or what other kinds of fruits are growing in your climates. And obviously I've decided to continue my red up and down lightly into the background. And now let's address the lower part. Okay, so we've been working with the red, and you notice that I said we have to address this lower portion. I'm thinking let's bring red up and down vertically into this area. I feel that there's a lot of diagonal movements in my picture. You notice that my cherry, she's leaning from upper left to lower right, and my table is going from upper right to lower left, there's a lot of diagonals. I want to bring in something to support these diagonals. And I started with red in the other portion. And here you see I'm going to outline the red too, right up to the edge of my cherry. And I'm just going to continue to allow the red to overlay the blue, creating a red violet at this time. It's going to be a lot of red, and you're going to say, hey, this cherry is very summer. So let's not forget about our blues. Just have to do a little more red, and then I'll come back to the blue and soften the reds, make them more of a violet sometimes. I just think I'll go right over this area. I can even go back this way, kind of hatching red through the background, cross hatching. It's an art word. It's a little bit more green over here. All kinds of directions and all kinds of colors. Just let yourself be very free with the colors. Okay, and let's just get our cherry a little bit more defined in places. Right on the edges is where we want to punch it up. Okay, we're coming down the final stretches, and here's where you might like to increase the border. I'm going to put a nice dark blue border on mine today. Try to get that straight. And I'll fill that in a little bit, since I went a little bit beyond my yellow lines. Over here I didn't quite go far enough, because I could see my yellow lines a little bit out there. So I might have to have a slightly thicker border than usual. But this is going to frame my picture nicely and give it that sort of finished, framed off look. It's kind of fun today because I went outside the lines, I went outside the borders, and that's a good thing to do. If you never break the rules, you'll never ever come to something new. So sometimes we can break the rules in a safe, kind of good way, and that would be artistically. Okay, now I'm going to show you how you can create a highlight, because we have a lot of saturation in our color, we have lots of shadow, but we don't have any really highlight. So here I have a specialty eraser that has a very small tip, but you could just get the tip of any pencil eraser, and your pencil should come off if you really rub hard. So I'm going to give us some bright shiny spots by really rubbing this eraser in, and what you're going to find is that it'll really help to make it a little bigger than what you think it needs to be. And try to get it in a really dark place, such as your red. Rub as hard as you can, willfully get your color off. And especially if you're erasing in red and you're just pressing like this, you'll notice that it's going to create a lot of red on your eraser. So I recommend just rubbing that off in between to try to get your eraser back to clean. And then you can continue to do these highlights. You'll have to look and see where the highlights should be. Remember I said make them bigger than what you think they need to be so that they can really be seen by the viewer. So we'll just enlarge these a little bit. And there you have it. It's all finished. And I wish you were here to eat these reindeer cherries with me.